Several years ago, I had a friend. I will not tell you his real name. I'll call him Greg. Greg was one of these tall, blonde, good-looking dudes, man, in the gym, 27 years old, in his prime. Just an amazing guy, man. And you couldn't help but like him. Everybody in the gym liked him, even though he was kind of a dog with the women. Everybody just loved this guy. He just had the it factor. He also had the it factor when it came to his physique. He was really quite phenomenal in what I would say the physique realm. And he was, I really believe, an up-and-coming guy that was going to do really amazing. Greg had one problem in bodybuilding, and that was drug usage. Now, I'm not talking about just PEDs. I'm talking about street drugs as well. Make no mistake about it. We'll talk about it in a little bit. There is a direct correlation between bodybuilders, a lot of bodybuilders anyway, and drug usage. When you go to a lot of shows or fitness expos, there is a lot of drug usage that happens in the parties and stuff like that my wife and I would never get involved in. There's a lot of other unhealthy things that go on as well, and that is wife swapping and orgies and things of that nature, which we were invited to, that we would not go to either. He was involved in all of these things. He had met a girl, they got together and had a baby, a beautiful little girl. Greg's problem was that he could not keep his eyes where they were supposed to be. He could not keep his life together. And one of the street drugs he used, he came and talked to me about in the gym. He's like, hey, man, I use this particular drug to help me sleep at night. It's really good. It helps me relax, kind of gives me a trip, that type of thing. I didn't know much about it, so I did some research, and I told him, I said, Greg, you need to get off that stuff, man. That stuff is incredibly dangerous. One night, he got into a fight with his baby mama. He threatened to kill himself. The problem is she didn't take him seriously, and she hung up. A couple days later, I got a phone call saying, hey, something's happened to Greg. Have you heard? I said, no, I haven't heard. And they said, we believe he's overdosed, and he died. I didn't know anything, so I started checking, and sure enough, found out that Greg had taken too much of this drug that night to try to help him sleep and drowned out his problems, because he was in a fight with his baby mama and he wanted to make her pay. You know, Greg believed a lie. And that lie was that this drug was going to make him feel better. This drug was going to cure his problems. This drug was going to make him sleep his problems away. But not realizing that he was going to wake up the next morning with the same problems that he always had, and he had to face them. The issue for Greg at this time was he took too much of it. We found out later on that he called her midway through the night. She answered the phone, and he said, I think I've taken too much. I'm not feeling well. She thought he was trying to get attention and hung up on him again. They found him the next day dead because he wasn't answering his phone. I remember going to his funeral, and I remember looking down into the casket at Greg, and I looked at my wife and I said, what a shame. Guys, he had believed a lie. And the lie is very simple. These things do not satisfy. Drugs don't satisfy. Bodybuilding in and of itself does not satisfy. It will not fix the problems within you. Thank you for coming back to the hard truth about bodybuilding and steroids. Let's get into it.
Be strong.
Hey everybody, thanks for coming back this week. I apologize we're a day late, but I was in the hospital with a blockage in my intestines. No word as of yet as of why, or if I'm going to have future work, but the blockage cleared out while I was there. It was not a fun ordeal, I assure you, and I want to thank everybody for the well wishes and the prayers. Believe me, it meant a lot. My loyal wife was with me, and I tell you, It's amazing how God designed us for physical touch in community, because she really comforted me while I was there. So again, thank you for that. But today I wanted to cover 3 lies based on my experience of what I just went through, and based on all of the years that I had as a bodybuilder and as a coach. I want to give you 3 lies that you need to be very, very aware of. And that is this. Number 1, bodybuilding is a healthy sport. Now, that's a lie. Bodybuilding is an unhealthy sport. Again, there is nothing wrong with working out. The Bible says that, honestly, there is profit in physical fitness, some profit, but there's little profit, because it's not what develops me as a man and as a person. My body is only an outward shell, and it will waste away. So bodybuilding is not a healthy sport. Matter of fact, it promotes unhealthy eating habits. Guys, as a coach, I used to tell all my clients, eating is your job. That's your job. And if you cannot do your job, then I cannot coach you, because you cannot do the very basic things that I need you to do to get big. Now, I'm just being honest. That was a horrible mentality, but that is where bodybuilding is. Bodybuilding promotes unhealthy eating habits. Matter of fact, the more you eat like that and the bigger you get, the more calories you have to sustain your muscle mass. On my diet for the universe, I was at 6,700 calories a day, eating 8 meals a day, taking protein supplements, the whole 9 yards, just to get the amount of calories I needed on my diet. Okay, so the problem that you have is your gut never gets a rest. You can develop micro tears in a leaky gut that leaks out stomach acids and stuff into your system. And if you need information about that, go to your doctor or Google it. It's very, very important that you understand the more gut problems you have as a bodybuilder. And listen to what I'm telling you. Every bodybuilder that is on a national level or a pro level will develop gut problems. Everyone at some point or another, and it's because they can't eat that much. And especially with the drug usage, a lot of it really kills your appetite. Tren, when you're taking a massive amount of Tren, guess what happens? A lot of times you can develop retractable hiccups. Hey, I had them. I ended up in the hospital with it. Let's be honest about it, okay? Ended up in the hospital with retractable hiccups. They were so bad, it's not just a one time, it's a and you closes off your throat and you can't catch your breath. One time I was driving, stopped at a red light, and I was hiccuping so bad that next thing I know, what woke me up was my horn blowing, because my head was on my steering wheel, because I passed out because my windpipe was blocked off from retractable hiccups. Now, let me just tell you this. It's not just one hiccup. It's a series of hiccups all at once that do not stop. You go from one to the other, to the other, to the other. So there are many, many, many side effects that happen. And bodybuilding promotes an unhealthy lifestyle. It promotes unhealthy eating. Eating that amount of calories Guys, it will cause problems in your gut. It can cause problems in your colon. You can have I say tons, but you can have a lot of unprocessed food in your colon at the end of your time. So it's really important that you get checked out. I just ended up in the hospital with a blockage. That blockage was not from any one specific thing, but it was the accumulative effects of everything in that lifestyle. So bodybuilding is not a healthy sport in its present ideology. Now, again, I am getting a lot of criticism. People are saying that I've turned on the sport, turned on guys, turned on this. I'm not against the sport of bodybuilding per se, okay? But what I am against is that they are promoting such a look that is unattainable by young people, and it promotes drug freaks. Guys, I was a 300-pound freak. I get it. I'm guilty. I was there. But let me tell you something. It promotes that kind of look, and we know that you cannot get that look without massive amounts of food, not to mention the drug use yet. Now, the other thing is bodybuilding is unhealthy because it props up a 159 billion-dollar worldwide supplement industry. If you haven't figured it out yet, everything you see in the vitamin store, when it comes to mass building, working out, all of this stuff, everything you see is not great stuff, okay? There are very few things that you actually need for your body to be healthy and to build muscle. What you need is good quality food, and if you need to supplement your body with specific vitamins, that's great. But the problem is we have people that indiscriminately, because they're in forums and other places reading things, they are just taking massive amounts of stuff, not understanding that many of these things that they're building grow up to be toxic in their system. There's fat-soluble vitamins and water-soluble vitamins. Fat-soluble vitamins can build up to toxic levels in your body, and it's extremely important that you understand that all you are doing is buying in and propping up this industry that you just don't need. How about this? I take my workout, pre-workout, whatever it is, whatever powder that is, take it off, and I take a scoop and I put it right in straight under my tongue, and then I take another scoop, put it straight in under my tongue, and then I let it sit in my mouth, and then I swallow it. Whoo! Man, you are jacked up and you're ready to get to the gym, right? Wrong. The problem is it goes straight into the bloodstream. My brother-in-law had a stroke from it. Absolutely. I know of other guys that have had strokes from that very thing. Soon as they put it in, guess what? It rushes into the system, creates a problem with their heart. Their heart stops racing. Some have had strokes and some have had heart attacks. Guys, I'm telling you, it promotes an unhealthy lifestyle. Bodybuilding in its current ideology is not a healthy sport. I know I'm being marginalized. Jeff was a low-level pro, blah, blah, blah. He didn't win his pro card till he was 50 years old. Guys, I get it. I told you from the beginning, I was a better bodybuilder when I was young than when I was old. I was a better coach when I was old than I didn't know anything about it when I was young. So what I'm telling you is listen to somebody that spent so many years in this sport. And by the way, I understand what it is that you're putting into your body and why, because I've been there. So it's an unhealthy sport, and it promotes a look that is not attainable except for the use of drugs. Now, I'm not talking about just drugs. I'm talking about massive amount of drugs. I'm talking about stimulants, and I'm also talking about recreational drugs that guys use, because I know a lot of bodybuilders that don't just use PEDs, they're using cocaine and a lot of other things because, hey man, it's an easy jump. And so it leads to other drug addictions and lifestyles. Listen, I can tell you this, for a long time, I was hooked on ecstasy, right? And alcohol with my drug usage. Thankfully, God set me free from that, and I have zero issues with that anymore because I've been freed through the blood of Christ. But I'm telling you right now, it promotes a look that is not attainable without drugs. It's a goal that is not able to be reached. You can't reach this goal. You can't reach it without massive amount of drugs. Lie number two. Lie number two is we have drugs to mitigate side effects from PEDs. Will you stop just a second and think about the logic of what you're saying? Do you know how many guys I get messages from since I've started this channel who have said, Jeff, you are overreacting, you're an alarmist. We now have drugs to mitigate the side effects of the drugs that we're taking. Well, what's going to mitigate the side effects from the drugs you're taking that are mitigating the side effects from the PEDs? Do you understand the logic? It's a cascading effect. And what's going to happen is you're going to find out that you can't quite get enough different types of drugs to mitigate all of the side effects from all the other drugs you're taking. Guys, the lunacy of the thought process of some of the guys that I'm hearing from, guys, lie number two is we have drugs that mitigate side effects from other drugs. Lie. It's a lie from the pit of hell, man. I'm telling you. It doesn't matter if you are temporarily mitigating a side effect from a PED. It's still doing its damage in your body. That's just the truth. Some guys become sterile, some guys have heart attacks, some guys have gut problems, some guys have all kinds of issues. And there are guys that are not with us now that are much younger than I am that just have died in the last few years. Coaches, and very popular coaches and competitors alike. Why? Because they bought into the lie that there are drugs that mitigate the side effects of the PEDs, and therefore I'm okay. You're not okay. I promise you, you're not okay. I ended up in the hospital, and I am sure I will end up in the hospital again as time goes on, not just because of old age, but because of the onset of the side effects that I will be getting from the cascading effects of these drugs. If we can help one guy get off of this stuff and get away from this sport, guys, go to the gym, work out, look great, be healthy. Be a well-rounded, emotionally and spiritually and physically enabled person. But don't buy into the lie that bodybuilding is a healthy sport and that we also have drugs to mitigate the side effects of the drugs we're taking so we can get big. Doesn't hold water. And then number 3, your coach is qualified to diagnose your health. That is a lie. I do not know one coach in bodybuilding. I don't know of one. If there is one, my apologies. But I don't know of one bodybuilding coach out there that is a medically trained doctor. Now, I will say this. If you know of one that is a medically trained doctor and he is coaching guys to use PEDs and he is a pro maker, here's one question that needs to be asked. Why are you violating the Hippocratic Oath? Right? The Hippocratic Oath. Do no harm. Why are you harming young men and young women by prescribing or giving them dosages of drugs that you know in the long run are going to be detrimental to their health? I used to have this attitude, and it is false thinking. Listen to me. False thinking. I used to have this attitude. They're going to do it anyway, and my job is to help them to be as safe as possible. What? But that's the way I thought. And it's wrong thinking, man. I mean, I'm telling you, your coach is not qualified to diagnose your health. I mean, now, honestly, I know when somebody gets their blood work done, and I look at that blood work, I know what your testosterone levels are supposed to be, your estrogen levels are supposed to be, and you can look at your liver values, things like that, and you can do all of your research and look all of that up, but you are not trained as a coach to be a doctor to know what to do to help that person mitigate those problems, and it certainly isn't by giving them more drugs, more food, or, oh, goodness gracious, you're holding water, so let's give you Lasix and just drain it all out of you. Have you seen the amount of women and men that are having extreme amount of problems, ending up in the hospital after competitions, or dying because the improper use of diuretics? Guys, your body is not designed by God to look like a bodybuilder. Nothing wrong with working out. Again, the Bible says bodily exercise profits, it just profits little. So there's nothing wrong with it. There's no violation to it. Paul, the Apostle Paul, was big on sports from what we can see in the Bible. But it doesn't give you license to go and to put things into your body to try to manipulate it in certain ways that are dangerous. What is one of the first things they tell you at a show if you're a competitor and you're backstage or you're there at the competitor meeting? Guys, stay healthy. This is about your health. Don't do anything dangerous. We have water and bananas back there. Why do we have water and bananas back there? Why do we need the warning? Because people are doing unsafe things and coaches are, and guys, listen, I don't know many coaches that I would give you that much money for because honestly, they are just ruining people with diuretics and just they're ruining people's lives. I told you the story of the 21-year-old man that called me years ago who called me and said, Jeff, I'm having a problem. And I told him, get to the emergency room right now. You're about to have a heart attack or a stroke. Sure enough, he was. And now at 26, he has a pacemaker in his chest at 26. And the doctors have told him he will need a heart transplant before he is 40. That is sad. So your coach doesn't know how to diagnose you. The lie in bodybuilding is your coach is qualified to diagnose your health. He is trying to make a living. That's what he is doing. If he is a full-time coach, he is trying to make a living. But guys, let me tell you something. If he's not a full-time coach, he's dabbling. Be aware of what you're getting yourself into. Number two, he is trying to build his reputation. Guys, coaches try to build their reputation in the sport because I promise you, if you look at these guys that are your top coaches, guess what? They're under contracts. They are. They're making six figures. They have contracts signed with supplement companies and stuff to that nature, and they are raking in money based on their clientele. They're trying to move up in the bodybuilding world. Some of them can't be good bodybuilders. Some of them are retired bodybuilders. And now they're trying to keep in the sport and be relevant by doing coaching. And guys, to be honest with you, that's what I was doing. I tore my lat off the spine in the back, and so I was no longer relevant in the sport. And honestly, we can argue the fact of whether a 50-year-old, 300-pound man should have a pro card. I get it, okay? I'm not arguing those things, but what I am saying is I was trying to stay relevant in a sport. And the regrets that I have are looking back thinking, man, I was giving guys and telling guys to do things that at the time I was like, hey, it's all good. I'm keeping them safe. But when you look back, you really weren't. The third point under your coach is qualified to diagnose your health. Not only is he trying to make a living, not only is he trying to build his reputation, but he is trying to move up in the sport. Like I said, he's wanting to move up. He's trying to become more and more relevant, be that top guy, handle those top guys if he can. It's all about pride and reputation. Finally, like it or not, he or she is guessing. They are guessing. They are guessing at dosages based on things that they've seen. They are guessing at drugs to use to try to create certain looks. They are guessing at best, but understand one thing, they are guessing. Bottom line, 3 lies of bodybuilding. There you have it. Like it or not, those three truths are staring you in the face right now. What are you going to do? You going to keep going? Or are you going to step back, get a little wisdom, and say, wait a minute, I've heard the warning. It's time for me to rethink my life.